Howdy, guys. Welcome back to the RedAss podcast. It is Monday, September 25th. I am 1 day older, 1 year older, 1 year wiser. I think anything is possible, but my name's Rob White, class of 14.
Well, and I'm still way older. Roy May class of 15. Not that you could tell by our class years, but
No, not at all. But yeah, no, for those unaware, yeah, yesterday was my 32nd birthday, which is God, it gets to that point where you're starting to realize, oh, well, they just keep going up.
yeah, there's generally no backtracking when it comes to that.
No, and now at this point, with this graduating class, I'll be 10 years removed from college, which is just I want to know what the heck happened to all that time. I don't know where I
Life,
went.
man, life happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not all bad. Getting older isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, not at all. I would say I've grown throughout my experiences for sure. I've gotten a lot more under my belt, and I've got to really experience some cool places and be around some cool people and see a lot of cool stuff. Plenty of other things too, but for where I'm at the age of 32, I'm not going to complain. And I'm here with you. I'm ready to be on this podcast today. I'm excited. It's a good Monday.
Yeah, generally an okay weekend sports wise, just depending on kind of who you root for. I mean, obviously, very A&M centric for football was good. Had some stumbles in some other sports, but obviously, came away out of the football game in a really positive, good light. There's still plenty of things to address, and we'll get to that. If you're a Cowboys fan, you saw the Cowboys go do what they always do against Arizona, because Arizona is apparently the Cowboys' bogey team, and they just can't seem to beat them no matter how good they are. Because after the first 2 weeks, I don't think there were a whole lot of people not thinking that the Cowboys probably weren't the best Cowboys they'd seen in a long, long time.
I would definitely argue that. I would say the Cowboys up to this point had definitely looked the part. Just something goofy about Arizona, man.
It's I don't, as long as I can remember, Arizona's a problem team for the Cowboys. So, but whatever. My fantasy team did well. We saw one of our favorite players in recent history have literally a historic day with A-Chain, well, and the entire Dolphins team, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, like where are you this morning? Like, where are you at this morning if you're a Broncos fan? Like, your team just gave up 70 points. Like, this wasn't an out of conference like SEC MAC game.
No, which that's so insane because we had this conversation on the podcast not just a couple of days ago, where all these teams are on a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not like these are all professionals. These are all guys getting paid to do this professionally in the real world, and you allowed 70 points. You allowed this was like literally Johnny Manziel era going on to play, South Carolina State, just dunking on them every chance you possibly can. We just saw that between professional adults.
But like on the flip side, like the Cowboys Cardinals game is a perfect example that they're all professionals, right?
Very true.
So maybe only the Broncos are not full of professionals. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's the problem.
Hey, my little brother, he's a big Broncos fan. So, yeah, I've never really given them too much hassle. But my mom's a big Dolphins fan. So, needless to say, she was having a great day yesterday.
Yeah, and of course, myself, like everyone else in the free world, had him on my bench.
Yeah,
well, he's my handcuff as well. Like, I also had
yeah.
Mostert. Mostert had himself quite a day as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thrilled to see that. Thrilled to see him basically show everybody what we already knew. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
that's really all that was.
it was
We knew he was going to be special. We knew he was going to be dynamic, and it didn't matter that it was going to be at the NFL level. He has world-class speed. Oh, and by the way, he's not just kind of he's not a speed guy. He shakes tackles, he breaks tackles. So he was on full display yesterday for the world to see, wasn't he?
Yeah, he definitely, people call it, a coming out party. That was certainly the case for Devon A-Chain yesterday. I was very impressed. I was very excited to see him finally show off, because we've all known here in College Station that he is a special talent. And it's unfortunate that we could not elevate him to a certain level while he was here, but we appreciate the fact that he can now. And I'm very excited for him. On another NFL front, something I thought was really wild, looking at Myles Garrett going off, having 3.5 sacks against Ryan Tannehill. We had Aggie on Aggie violence taking place yesterday.
Well, I can tell you that Miles Garrett doesn't care where you go to school, but I tell you one thing he will do is just make you look stupid. Because at this point, like I get it's a game for all of them, right? It is a game. It's a profession, but it's still a game.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just a game to him at this point. Like just running back and forth, causing a delay a game because they have two tight ends shifting to try and block him. It's just
That's
I,
how
I
you
wonder
know. That's how you know you command the field.
I wonder how much time he allots every week, like on his Google Calendar, to like, how can I screw with them this week?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's almost like he's having to make it interesting because it's not hard enough.
Right. And
Like,
well, and I love the people that always used to describe Miles because they would say he bends like a cat because he does have this kind of way where he can just work around defenders and work through them, and something he's very good about.
he's just a freakish talent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there is to it.
All there is to it. I mean, even it's so funny looking at pictures of him back in high school when he was just infinitely bigger than everybody.
He was
And
bigger than a lot of college football players when he was in high school.
yeah, and that just maintained. And he's definitely one of those alums for Aggies that will, kind of fall in line with the likes of Dak Press. With like Dat Win and those type of
Vaughn.
classic players. Yes, Von Miller, of course,
Yeah.
and these NFL legends from A&M. So pretty exciting day all around for Aggies in the NFL. But let's talk about our current Aggies.
We
Let's get
got one more Aggie in the NFL going tonight, and he's on
yeah.
my roster, and I need a couple of catches from him. I don't need a ton,
No,
but it's
just
Mike Evans, so I know I'm going to get something.
right. And yeah, you're playing the Eagles.
He'll
Should be
probably
fun.
go like 6 for 82 and a touchdown, something like that.
Yeah, go have some fun. Should
Just
be
like
fun.
standard day at the office, just la la la. Mike Evans out there putting up 1,000-yard seasons.
So that's what he does.
Fact.
So A&M Auburn, exciting, fun game. Started off a little slow. Yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into it.
Well, yeah, obviously started off a little slow. I mean, when it's 6-3 at the half, I think the only people excited about that was probably Auburn.
Yeah.
So you go in the half 6-3, but you see some things that you like. I mean, boy, you only gave up 3 points. So, speaking from the defensive side of the ball, you saw some things you liked. You're up 6-3 and not 14-3 because you can't stop committing penalties. Very Cowboy-esque. But and unfortunately, Wigman goes down, and every Aggie on the planet goes, "Here we go again." But then Max Johnson came in, and I thought the way they worked him into the game flow and kind of gave him confidence and got him going. I mean, obviously it showed later on in the game. I know that the 27-10 isn't maybe a number that we all wanted to land on. But I think I said something. I wasn't on here. I was talking to somebody else. I think I said something like 37-17. So, the margin of victory wasn't that far off from what I was thinking.
Sure.
Just Auburn can't move the ball.
No.
But then, you double the spread. What spread was 7.5, something like that. So you double the spread. There's a lot to love about what we saw, especially defensively, getting after the ball. Torian York, obviously a bit of you talk about a coming out party. He had a bit of one. We had 11 tackles and a half sack. Edgerrin Cooper having a great game, had a couple of sacks. Russell had a sack. So you love seeing those numbers because that's the one thing I feel like we've all been asking more of is sacks, right? Like,
right.
We're not getting any pressure on the quarterback. What's going on? And then, an SEC team, although Auburn may be the worst in the West, but still, like you were able to keep focus and get after the quarterback. Put consistent pressure on. There's still some guys running wide open here and there, but I thought we saw improvement, and improvement's what I want to see every week, right?
Well, and that's the one thing we've always said, just if we are continually improving from week to week, eventually we will get to the point where everything is just Gucci and rocking and rolling.
Well,
Uh,
we'll get to where we want to be.
yeah, we'll get to where we need to be. And one stat that really stuck out to me, and let me make sure I had it right, but I'm pretty sure if I'm reading this correctly, Auburn left this game with 56 yards of passing.
Yeah, they had 200 yards total, like as a team.
That's it. And I don't know if this was just all the external pressure of people saying like, "Hey, we need to see something out of this defense." I don't know if it was internal. It could have been any number of things. But all I know for sure is I was really happy with the effort that I saw defensively. And how many total sacks did we end up running away with? Was it seven?
7.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
seven.
had 7 sacks.
7 sacks. I mean, just very impressive game defensively all around. And you don't allow a single defensive touchdown like on the defensive side of the ball. It all came from unfortunately a strip. But overall, I mean, not much to complain about with our effort.
Yeah,
Especially the second
defensively
half.
and offensively, you have to keep in mind that you had a quarterback change in the middle of the game and an unscripted quarterback change.
Yeah.
So you were dealing with that. I liked how the running back stepped up. We weren't that far off from having 2 100-yard rushers.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked what I saw, really from all of them. I know Ruben Moss didn't have a massive day, but I just seeing little glimpses of him, over the last couple of games.
Yeah.
I think he's just as exciting as the other two, and I think between the three of them, you really have the full kind of spectrum of dynamic that you want out of your running backs. Between bruisers and
Mm-hmm.
sweep speed and dynamic and shifty and I think they all kind of between the three of them they cover a 3-circle Venn diagram where in the middle is basically the running game you want has all these attributes, and between the three of them I think we have all of that. Still some issues with the offensive line. I
Sure.
just when you're I mean 4 games in and you still having false start issues. And I'll forgive 1 or 2 of those when it comes to changing your quarterback because it is just a different cadence. So you kind of want to forgive some of that stuff, but at the same time, that's one of the just biggest, easiest mental mistakes to avoid is literally the snap count.
Yep.
So there's still some concern. There's concern not finishing drives.
Yeah.
Because there's going to come games where you can't trade those 4 points. You can't spend a 7 down to a 3 and expect you play a first half like that against some of these other teams and you're in a hole that you may not be able to get out of. At least offensively, defensively, you held them 3 points. So, if you can maintain, and really they held them to 3 points the whole game.
Yeah.
Because like you said, their one score came defensively on a really stupid, super goofy play.
Yeah.
But again, ball security, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not that it was he didn't, just like flat drop it like we've literally seen people as they're running down the field, they lose the ball, which is always the funniest thing to me on the planet. Like no
Yeah.
contact and the ball starts squirting out. I mean, they put a lick on him, but you also got to know when it's time to hunker down with both arms. And again, I'm not putting all the onus on him. It just, sometimes turnovers happen. The best players, Barry Sanders fumbled the ball. Okay. So
Yeah. It
uh,
happens. It's part of the game.
yeah, so it happens, but it's also a good learning lesson. Um, but I loved what I saw out of the defense as far as just progression. If we're improving, then I can deal with it.
Yeah.
If we play a better game because the opponent's worse, that doesn't do much for me. But I thought I saw drastic improvement. And also out of the booth, no, he coaches down from the sideline, doesn't he? But out of the game plan and the coordination. And on the flip side of that, I think I mentioned it, but there's a lot to be said for Petrino having to change quarterbacks and being able to make that as seamless as possible
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of it, in the middle of a game that at the point was obviously still kind of at a tipping point to an extent.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're sitting in a 3-point game coming out of the half, and you have a brand new quarterback taking the field in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things were up in the air on the whole deal. So it was very, very crucial for us to come out the gate and show what we could do. And honestly, hats off to Max Johnson as far as his effort in this game, coming
Oh
off of the
gosh,
bench.
100%.
One of my favorite, I mean, probably one of my favorite A&M touchdown passes in the last several seasons happened during that game. That just perfect pass. I love the quote, which is, there's no defense for a perfect pass, which is, I think, a Peyton Manning quote. But there was a perfect pass to Evan Stewart in the end zone, right
Yeah,
between two defenders in the slot. Perfect.
that's dropping it in the bucket because he had his defender beat to the inside, which is what Max saw to throw.
Yeah.
Um, and I would hope, and I'm sure Max did see the other safety up high.
Yeah.
But he was basically able to squeeze that into what is an incredibly small window.
Mm-hmm.
So very Wegman-esque in kind of how we were talking last week about him throwing into tight windows. But the third quarters are where you just kind of come out and you put it away. Yeah, in the first one, honestly, him throwing to his brother Max. I mean, one, what a fun story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But two, you come right out, you make a statement, you make a stop, you get the ball, you make a statement, you score. And 3 minutes later, you score again. So
Mm-hmm.
this, 3 minutes of game clock, which is still like 45 minutes of real time life because of commercials. But
Horrible.
yeah, but I honestly, even even after 13 points, I felt like we were good. Like, and I know that's weird, but I felt I know you're only up. I know you're only up 10 at the time, but I felt like what I had seen out of Auburn in the first half made me think that maybe you had just kind of put the game away. Now I'm glad, obviously, they continue to move the ball and score again, and so you put up 14 points, in the third quarter, and at that point you're feeling pretty good. Um, and then you have the fluke fumble and the return, and then our fumble, our scoop and score that I called back, which I don't know that I still necessarily agree with. I don't care that it was a forward pass. I care that he made a football related move and had possession and lost it.
That's
Um,
exactly the argument that I had, because
because it
people,
was a forward pass.
yeah, it was a forward pass, which I won't argue that I think it was a forward pass. I think
Mhm.
the issue was he catches the ball and makes that quote unquote football
Football
move
related
upfield
move. Yep.
and then gets stripped of the ball. That's the
Yeah.
way I think it should have been called, but that's the difference between this game being 27-10 and 34-10 potentially.
Right.
You know?
But they scooped that, and like, there's some concern, right?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it's down 10 points, and do they have any momentum? Because defensive scores, like that's scooping scores, one of the easiest for a pick six, one of the
Mm-hmm.
easiest ways to gain momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a balanced flip flop of momentum because you have the ball, you're driving, all of a sudden they put up 7 points,
Mm-hmm.
and you're Auburn, you're down in a hole, you're down to 20 to 3, and all of a sudden you have life. So it could have gone really poorly, to be honest. And our ability to not let it affect us. Um, and then eventually you shut it down with 4 minutes left, and Le'Veon Moss punches it in, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody breathes a big sigh of relief. And that with 4 minutes left, not a college offense in the world that can put up 17 points.
No,
So
I'll definitely say that I thoroughly it reminded me of the game against LSU back in 2020. It was like it wasn't the greatest offensive performance, but at the same time, you weren't worried about it because you knew the defense had it. They just were on top of their game the
yeah,
whole day. So it was like, well, we've got 20 points. 20 points is going to win this game. It'd be nice to have 7 more. Would be nice to
yeah.
have 14 more. But
Yeah, we were all sitting there going, maybe our defense can create one turnover and just flip the field and we can kind of put this away.
yeah,
Or as opposed to sitting there going, man, I hope we don't turn the ball over.
yeah,
Kind of thing. So it's a different approach when your defense is clicking on a few more cylinders, than normal. And I was happy with it, man. It's a 17-point win in the SEC, and I think there's plenty to pick at and break down, and that's why position coaches have film room, and that's their
mhm,
job to do it. There's some concerning lingering issues with the offensive line, but it's not anything that can't get fixed.
yeah,
That's the thing. Like a lot of the things that I want to see fixed are just simple, like stay locked in mentally, and generally you'll fix most of these issues.
mhm.
This isn't it's not a scheme thing on the offensive side of the ball at all. So you want to continue to see some progress, and that leads us kind of into the Arkansas game, right?
Yeah. Very true.
Um,
Rolling into Arkansas.
well, and obviously, this game is always way more exciting than it needs to be.
You know,
Like,
that's the one trope about it that I think we all can universally agree is, can we just have a good, casual, relatively easy win? We've pretty much got it in the bag by the third quarter and no stress.
well, we've proven that when it's on campus, we can do that because we
Sure.
smoked them in Fayetteville and we smoked them at Kyle Field.
Yeah.
Um,
Twice. Yeah. Twice at Kyle
yeah,
Field.
but it's yeah. I mean, everybody's ready for this to get back on campus. So
Yeah.
this is an interesting game because I don't know how much of the LSU Arkansas game you saw.
I went back and watched highlights yesterday, just kind of leading up to this, and yeah, it was a bit of a dogfight.
It was a dogfight, and I didn't actually really flip it over. I want to say, gosh, it might have been into the third, maybe fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So I kind of caught when things. I mean, it was a dogfight the whole game, but when things really were getting interesting, and KJ Jefferson's just so good. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He's such a good quarterback on such a blah team.
Yeah,
Arkansas's got problems, man,
they do.
and I don't. And the only thing I don't know is, did Arkansas play way above their level, or is LSU? Did they just play down, or so? It's kind of one of those things where, again, I still don't think we have quite enough, data points basically um, to know because I don't know. I mean, I what a great game, right? It's incredibly like entertaining if you don't have a dog in the fight.
Oh, no doubt. And certainly coming into that game, I think that was our opportunity as fans to really get a good little gauge, maybe, of what Arkansas looks like. Obviously, against tougher competition than what they saw, I'm sure, in non-conference play.
Well, and we all saw with our own eyes LSU play Florida State, and until about midway through the third, late in the third. I mean, that was still a game, and then Florida State kind of decided to step on LSU's neck and end it.
Yeah.
And then you see Florida State now, and you're like, are they good? Are they not? They're playing close games with teams that we don't think are any good. So if there was one word that right now like you just had to use, and it's one of the absolute buzzwords in the history of sports, it's parity, right?
Parody. Yeah.
Um, has the transfer portal opened up some schools to get players that otherwise they wouldn't? Well, transfer portal and NIL, open them up to get players that before this era of the sport that they really couldn't have gotten. These guys go to the big names and that's it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So is there more talent on some of these rosters that we consider mediocre teams? It's I mean obviously like KJ Jefferson's a great example, although
Sure.
um what's weird about that game is they almost put up 1,000 yards of offense between the two teams though. I mean,
Mhm.
where was the defense? And so we know Arkansas, like, defensively, they are not good against the pass.
No, that was one
Um,
thing I was definitely looking at.
yeah, their secondary is not good. I think I read somewhere. I think their offensive line is like KJ Jefferson keeps that together, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have a Johnny and have the worst offensive line in the world and still kind of be okay.
Yeah.
And he's dynamic. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback, and while he hasn't had success against us, I think
Mm.
Ags are very snake bitten about having dual threat quarterbacks. And so then you add a dual threat quarterback into this goofy, stupid game, the
Yeah.
goofy goober game that we
Mm.
play in Jerry's World every year, and it's just like a big circus, and nobody knows where you're getting off the carousel.
No.
Um, so I think there's a lot of Ags that have a lot of apprehension about this game just because you have a dynamic quarterback, and we don't like dynamic quarterbacks.
No,
Now, yeah, we do and we don't. I don't know. I mean, uh, the Auburn quarterback was their leading rusher coming into this game, right?
yeah, he
So,
was.
well, and then they didn't. I mean, they didn't do anything,
No,
on offense. I mean, 200 yards of offense, nobody's gonna have much anything. And with
no.
7 sacks, it doesn't matter how much he scrambles.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and KJ's a great quarterback, and no one's going to argue that. I mean,
I think
he's
he might be the best in the SEC.
yeah, he's a phenomenal quarterback, and I think he's going to go on to have a great career with his build and his speed. I think he's a phenomenal talent.
He's
On
very prototypical to go to the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say he fits the bill for, kind of a Dak Prescott, that kind of build, that kind of
Mhm.
style. And I think he's going to do well in the league. However, I don't have a lot of confidence in the rest of the guys around him. At this point, you've played two Power Five teams, of which you lost both games by score. Granted, those things probably could have been flipped around the other direction, but at the
Are
end of
you
the day,
including Are you including BYU?
yeah, including BYU, but you still lost. Yeah, there's not much to gain
It's hard
from
to
your.
call them Power Five.
Yeah, it's hard to call them Power Five. They just got there, and
Yeah,
now you're looking at Kent State. Was it Kent State and Western Carolina? I mean, there's really nothing you can gather from those either.
yeah.
So,
Well,
with at a neutral site, A&M opening up as a 7-point favorite, I'd say
what?
fair.
Yeah, because if it's neutral, yeah, then it's as even Steven is going to get. Yeah, Arkansas losing to BYU. That's I don't care if it's P5. That's just seems like a bad loss, quite frankly.
At
Um,
home.
yeah, that's a bad loss. And then, but you can't get in a dogfight with LSU. So I
Yeah.
mean, they balled out, but was the LSU defense super porous? I mean, Arkansas lost, but they threw two picks.
Yeah.
So they lost the turnover battle because there weren't any fumbles in the game, but LSU threw a pick.
Yeah.
So is that one pick enough for you to at least extend the game or something? It's just and the shoulda, woulda, coulda game is the same game as the transitive property game.
Yeah. It's a
But
game everybody plays.
right, but yeah, but everybody plays it exactly
Yeah.
because in all of that, the momentum is a big part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I
So much changes, like, yeah,
look,
with a turnover, with a, with just whatever little outside influences, special team plays. Those are the type of things that completely change the dynamic of the game that
there's things
nobody
that win.
thinks about.
They win games,
Yeah, they do win
and they
games.
win games that sometimes you're not supposed to win. Quite
Yep.
frankly, um,
Best example. I mean, another great example you could use, A&M Alabama, back in 21. I mean, we return a kickoff back for a touchdown.
mhm.
I mean, if we go 3-and-out on that drive, that would have been a drive had we not gone forward.
All the wind is sucked completely out of Kyle Field, but
Yeah.
you return that kick and like literally the top is blowing off of Kyle Field.
Oh, insane energy. I really, to this day, I wish I would have been at that game. We were playing in Abilene of all places. And the best part about that game, like, just, cool, quick aside, we're playing this gig over there, and we had, I don't know, 15 people in the bar. There was like some major event going on the other side of town. So we were just playing to hardly anybody in this bar. So it was glorified paid practice. So we're sitting there jamming out, playing along. We're going into Love Me the Same, which, if you guys aren't familiar with our music, it's a pretty rocking song. It jams along pretty good. But I'm just sitting on this A note, just going to da, 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 da. I'm just doing that the whole time. I look over to the side stage. Mind you, we took the stage at the start of the fourth quarter. So this game is not secure at any stage. Like, Alabama's
Right.
driving. I'm thinking, oh my God, they're about to do it again. Alabama's going to take the lead late. They're going to
That
win.
sinking feeling.
Yeah, we knew it was coming, right? I watched and had no clue about anything going on in the fourth quarter. And then I look over side stage, and Cody Dockery, our tour manager at the time, is standing side stage, and he grabs our little mic that's on our board so we can talk to all of us in our ears. And he goes, Rob, I turn over, look at him, and he just starts nodding his head like this. And I said, in the talkback mic, I look back and I said, bullshit. And he does the little whoop hand sign. I was like, oh, we won. And I went back and watched, and apparently a couple of the kids that came out and, appreciate them coming to support despite a lack of crowd. They bought us shots, me and Carson, because we're both Aggies, and we partied it up and had a good time. But yeah, those type of plays really do make a big difference in those games. And so that's why Arkansas is going to be weird. There's going to be turnovers. There's going to be stupid stuff. There's going to be ball sitting off the top of the freaking, uprights. Whatever's going to happen. It's going to be a funny game, because it always
What?
is.
Here's another really good example. And this was from yesterday. I got finishing my open house. I'm driving home. So I just flip on the radio, and, here locally, we get the Texans broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texans were playing, and it was kind of a back and forth game, and it still was a bit in the balance. And especially, like, if you know the Texans at all, you know that every game is in the balance until they blow the final whistle. but the Texans just given up a touchdown, and it looks like they're about to lose momentum. And apparently there's some funky kickoff. Um, and a dude that doesn't touch the ball. I don't know the Texas roster that well, but a dude that really doesn't touch the ball and isn't supposed to return kicks. First he drops it, then he picks it up, then he runs it back for a touchdown. And and at that point, you just felt like that game was over.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing that Jacksonville was going to be able to do to come back.
And talking about boogeyman teams for
Yeah,
teams,
right.
like whether if it's the Cardinals for the Cowboys, it's the Texans for the Jaguars, man. The Jags have lost 10 of the last 11 to the trash Texans. And everybody's been all up on the Jags. Oh, they're going to be the big.
They're the better Jags than they were last year.
Yeah,
And
they're better. They're so good. And yet they still can't beat the Texans. It's just weird.
Is that, I tell you what, is that kind of any time you have to keep this in mind for gambling. Next time you see the Cowboys playing the Cardinals and the Texans playing the Jags in the same weekend, bet all your money and then turn the TV off.
Yeah, just pay their money, move
bet
on.
Against your team. Yeah.
You're going to have a better life. You're going to have a better life.
Just bet against your team. So if your team wins, you don't care.
Always.
And if your team loses, at least you get paid.
Exactly. So I did want to kind of do a quick look back from this past weekend, just real fast. Nothing we have to go, game by game, of course. But man, there were some pretty crazy results from this.
Yeah.
Past
so
week.
And going back to what we were saying, Florida State has to go to overtime to beat Clemson, and I get that it was on the road. Maybe I can't remember.
Yeah, it was on the road.
Yeah, but. Okay, but we know that Clemson isn't supposed to be very good. So what does that result tell us? We literally have no idea. We have no idea what that tells us. Ohio State, Notre Dame, really entertaining game if you like Big Ten football, because low scoring football is how they roll.
Yep.
And obviously, they punch it in the last second. Colorado goes on the road and, like everybody thought, got their doors blown off.
Yeah.
Like, what is it like? Was it first quarter or first half? Oregon was up by like a couple scores and they fake a punt anyways. Like the Oregon coach was not having it at all.
First quarter, I want to say. He just went. That's something that Oregon has been known to do in the past. Like, hey, balls to the wall. We don't care. Just go for it. Go win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they don't care about feelings.
No.
The Pac-12 is going to be interesting. Utah beating UCLA. I think Utah is good again, obviously. Yeah. Turns out them beating Florida, maybe, it was an upset, maybe, because maybe Florida's getting things figured out.
And one team nobody's talking about at all, Washington, freaking Huskies out here. They blew the doors off of Cal. They beat them like 59-32.
Yeah.
You're talking Washington's been very good. They scored 24 points in the first quarter in their game this weekend.
Pac-12 looks to be entertaining if nothing else, but they're also kind of eating their own in the top 25 with Wazoo beating Oregon State. So and then I feel like I said this out loud, but I'm fairly certain I said it out loud that Alabama was just going to straight up beat Ole Miss. They weren't going to cover; they were going to win.
They did, and honestly, I would love to say that I was shocked.
Water is wet.
Water's wet.
Nick Saban doesn't respond well to Lane Kiffin running his mouth.
No, and I think that just goes to show, because people have been asking the question, can Lane get Ole Miss over the hump? With all the players and all the returning staff and everything that you have,
and all the King's horses and all the King's men.
You have all of these things going for you, and you can't beat Nick Saban. This is the year. This was the time to do it, and you lost by 2 touchdowns. Like, sorry to say, Lane, I just don't think you're going to do it at Ole Miss. That's fine, though. It is what it is. I will never cry about him losing football games because he can go suck an egg.
No, absolutely. 100%. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Only stuff I'm really looking forward to this weekend, Georgia Auburn, just because it's good old-fashioned hate. I love that rivalry. It's great at rivalry. Auburn. Maybe Auburn gives them a game. Georgia again. And they're still number one, but they're not as, maybe they're not as dominant as the Georgias. Well, yeah, okay, sure. But we used to say that about Saban teams too. And they just kept rattling off championships.
4-0 Kansas travels to 4-0 Texas.
That's probably the game to watch this weekend.
Yeah.
No, there's a couple more.
That one's up there.
Notre Dame Duke.
Notre Dame Duke ought to be good.
Where is that game? Is it it's in North Carolina, right?
I don't recall. I've got
I
my
think it's at Duke.
yeah, my schedules are all screwy here. I didn't have like the full lineup pulled up. It's at
Yeah,
Duke. Yep, it's at Duke.
so it's at Duke. And then the other one that I think is going to be really interesting, and I'm going to tie this in. I'm going to tie this back to ours here in a second.
Sure.
But LSU is going to Ole Miss this week. So
Yeah.
LSU coming off a win against Arkansas is headed to what could be a very emotionally let down Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
You know, does LSU walk in there and absolutely just tar and feather Ole Miss, or is Ole Miss able to get back up to it? Is LSU emotionally like beat down from having to hold on against Arkansas at home?
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, that's two interesting things to see, and then turn it back to our game. Man, Arkansas had LSU on the ropes. They had the ability to win that game, and they just didn't. They didn't pull it out. And you wonder if that there's some legit emotional letdown because again, Arkansas LSU, it's the boot. Like it's not the biggest trophy in the world, but it means something to them.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So
and
you know, it's
rivalries will do that. Like anytime you go into like a what would be considered a big rivalry game, and you don't quite pull it out, and you kind of lose it towards the end.
and you're right there. You're
Yeah.
right there. And the whole game, you're standing toe to toe in the middle of the ring like a Rocky movie. You know, you're
Yeah.
just literally trading punches and you don't get it done. It's such a letdown.
Yep.
You know, them heading into this game, which is look, it's just not a rivalry. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, they're sick of losing to us. Like what, one out of the last 11 they've won, something like that. One of the
Yep.
last 12.
Yep. 10 of the last
Um,
11 went to A&M.
so there's some emotion involved in this game for them. But you know, where is that team going to be mentally coming off of really a slugfest against LSU and honestly, just a letdown because they should have maybe not should have, but they certainly could have won that game late.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a playing factor. You do have to wonder how quickly they get over this LSU loss and how they move into this week. You'd
That's a
like
lot
to,
of emotion on top of emotion.
yeah, and you would like to think, as a fan of wanting competitive football, you'd like to think that Arkansas would bury that, say, "All right, it sucks, it's over, we're moving on to A&M. A&M's going to be a tough opponent. Let's go for it." But of course, as a fan of my Aggies, I would much rather just see Arkansas come out super flat and we just go out there and
Yeah.
beat them like a drum.
Well, and I think that you know, obviously you want them to come out flat and you want to get off to a hot start because literally in any sport that's good. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of that statement doesn't, you know, necessarily need to be said out loud.
No.
But we need to get out to a solid start. I'm not even worried about getting to a fast start. I want like on the first 2 to 3 drives, I want points. And out of those two, like let's say the first 3 drives,
Mm-hmm.
one of those better be touchdowns.
Yep.
At least one, if not two.
Yep.
You know, I'd like to be either, 13, at 13 or 17 after 3 drives. And I would love for them to come out a little bit flat so we're able to like on top of scoring, kind of take the wind out of their sails. Because we've seen that the defense will continue. Like finally, we saw the adjustments, right? That's what we've been complaining about is not enough adjustments.
Yep.
So finally, we were able to, um, to get it figured out. Maybe it's a nice way to put it.
Yep.
Especially even as the game progressed. So what I want to see is, if we can get if we can basically, I don't care how much they run up and down the field, if you can keep them from scoring like on the first 2, maybe 3 drives, and we're able to put up, even if it's just 13 points on 3 scores,
Yeah.
I think you love where you're at, knowing what we saw last week.
Yeah.
Because 6-3, that's coming out flat. That's us having it. That's us having issues. But defensively, that's not us coming out flat.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic defensive half. I don't care if it's Auburn or not. So if you're able just to get that early pressure on KJ Jefferson, whatever you're going to do to contain the kid, if you're going to spy him all game long, I don't know if you can sacrifice a spy on top of pressure because again, our defensive backs, they've been kind of hit or miss. And sometimes they miss when they hit. But so I don't know how, I don't know how you're going to deal with it. You've got some linebackers that are coming off playing a really good game. Maybe you're just able to contain him that way. Cause if you can drive, if you can drive a dynamic quarterback back into that defensive line talent that we have, you got to like your chances, right?
I
The
agree.
biggest thing is just making sure he doesn't slip out wide. You've got to be able to put some sort of pressure on him because since he is able to shift and move the pocket and escape the pocket,
Mhm.
you're asking a lot of your secondary cover guys starting for 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds. Like nobody does that. You can't even do that in the NFL.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah, KJ is definitely going to be our X factor coming into this week that we have to keep an eye on. But obviously for us and A&M, it's going to be the Max Johnson show this week
yes.
because it's a high ankle sprain from Connor. People were saying a couple of weeks minimum. So we were not going to see him for this week and probably not for Alabama either.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's maybe the earliest you get to see him. And
And
depending on
even then,
well, I mean, and depending on how Max is playing, if you feel super confident the way with the level Max is playing at, then you just let it ride because then you have the bye week and you don't have to worry about anything till was it South Carolina coming out of the bye?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's right.
So like so then you're talking about let's see, 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's 4 weeks of recovery, and high ankle sprains are generally 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I mean, and to an extent, I think you expect Max Johnson to continue this level of play. I mean, you've seen
Yeah.
it. This kid has started and won a lot of games in the SEC.
Yeah,
This isn't
he would. People have argued, and I tend to agree. He might be the most capable backup in the entire conference, if not college
no,
football.
absolutely in the conference. I would be willing to start I'd put that statement out and say we might have the best 1-2 quarterback punch in the nation,
Yeah,
like legitimately.
yeah. We do
Because
have
Wegman,
two very talented quarterbacks.
yeah, Wegman's shown what he can do, and Max Johnson not only has shown it, but he's a proven commodity, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where a lot of people kind of lose their brains about. Yeah, well, we got the best quarterback room in the nation. Two of those guys has never taken a snap in college, so no, you don't. Like a lot of that has to do with experience, and not only has he played in games and taking meaningful snaps, but he's won games.
Yeah,
So, having a guy that started 12 times for Bowling Green and went, 3-9, I mean, those aren't necessarily meaningful snaps,
no.
snaps kind of thing. Having a dude that literally started in the SEC now for two separate teams
Mm-hmm.
and has a pretty decent track record, is talented, can drive the ball downfield and can run enough. He's mobile enough.
Yeah.
And that's all I ask for. I don't need another Johnny. I just need a guy that when he knows he needs to move, he needs to move.
No, we need like an old school, as they say, like an old school Alabama quarterback. You didn't know what their name was, you didn't really care, but he went out there and he did the damn thing, and he won football games, and that's all that
Yeah,
matters.
that's about right. Yeah,
But
and then they ended up with a random side commentary job with ESPN or the SEC network. That's just
right,
kind of where they all end up.
McElroy. Love that guy,
Right.
by the way. He's
But
cool.
seriously, like he didn't go out and win games single-handedly.
No,
Like
he had
that wasn't his role, and they didn't need him to be in that role.
yeah, no, he had himself a cast of characters that definitely helped him walk down the road, and we appreciate that. It made it
Well,
it was fun to watch.
yeah, but you want to talk about a cast of characters? Let's talk about our offense.
Yeah.
So Max is now surrounded by some elite talent at wide receiver, some up and coming elite talent at running back. I think all of those guys have a chance to be absolute elite running backs.
Mm.
See the offensive line to get together a little bit. The tight ends are starting to come around and be a more important part of the offense, not just catching the ball, but also in blocking.
Oh yeah.
Um, I think running back chipping and blocking still needs some improvement, but that's okay. Again, that's something that you can improve over a season. You can improve that game to game because you just keep hammering them in film room.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I'm excited for the Arkansas game. I think we win, and I think we win pretty big. I think it's not like a blowout by any means because there's no such thing as a blowout in this game. But
No.
I think with about 6 or 7 minutes left to go in the game, I think we feel pretty confident that we've got it wrapped up. So I could see us winning by 14 points.
Yeah, I think if we win this game by a couple of scores, I will feel very confident going into that next week.
Oh yeah, and that's on down the road, and we'll see what Alabama does this week. Who are they playing? They're at Cowbell.
At Cowbell, which is they're 14.5-point favorites, and Cowbell has not exactly had a long running track of doing well against them.
Well, okay, who does have a really good long running like history of beating Alabama in the last 15 years?
Auburn. That's about it.
And Georgia, just because they did it just enough.
Right. But
So
fact is, it's they're going to go to Starkville, which I'm going to get into Starkville here in a minute, but I will say we did have ourselves. That's going to be a fun game, I think. I know a lot of people are pretty hyped for that in town, but we all know what's probably going to happen there. It's probably going to be a Alabama running away with it. Although, anything's possible. Maybe Mississippi State gives them game.
Weirder things have happened.
Yeah.
Maybe they get super up for the game and maybe pull like an Arkansas with LSU to where they're at least in it right near the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
All right, tell your Starkville story, then we gotta get moving.
Yeah, it sounds good. So yeah, Starkville was fun. We went out and played at Rick's Cafe over there. Good times. Good people. A lot of kids were out of town because they were, typical kind of similar to A&M first road game. Kids like to go home, go visit the family, do that
Do
kind
their
of deal.
laundry that they haven't done yet since school started.
Exactly. So they went out and did that, and it was all great and good. But yeah, no, Starkville was a blast. We had ourselves a really good time. The crowd was, definitely getting into our music as time went on. The owner said he'll happily have us back.
Always a plus.
Always a plus, which is never a bad deal. But then we hit the road. We're driving all the way back to Decatur, Texas. We left at 2:00 in the morning to go play at a wedding reception north of Decatur, and we have a blowout on our tire just on the Dallas side of Tyler, heading in towards Van, Texas. End up maybe like 3 miles from Love's. We kind of limp to that Love's, get the tire changed out. The whole deal. It was just, there were so many little things, and it was a lot of driving. We were very tired. We finished up this little wedding reception. Like, there's dogs walking around. It's at some dude's barn, just hanging out. We had to bring our own PA system to play this thing. I was so worried because there were older folks in the crowd that were like, "Oh, these kids." No, they were fine. They partied with us, which was cool. But yeah, we rolled on back that night. Take a big pull right at midnight for my birthday, and then we just got on back down into town. Yeah, it was just a lot of driving. It's just a lot every weekend. It just keeps getting exhausting. But this is what we signed up for.
That is the job.
That's the job. So we don't complain about it. We just drink through it and move on from it.
I will say my Sundays have turned in like full blown turned in my recovery days. So basically I do my open house because I pretty much do one every weekend.
Yeah.
So I do my open house, I get home, and then the rest of my day is literally spent napping, eating, and hydrating. That's it. I generally drink like anywhere from 2 to 4 gallons of water in a Sunday afternoon, trying to undo what I did to myself on college football Saturday.
Oh yeah.
I got to refuel, and I got to eat a little bit better because, when it's college football Saturday, I'm not concerned about my diet and rest. But man, I did not, I was not able to fully go through with my plan last night, and I didn't sleep well. So I woke up this morning. It's one of those days where you wake up and the first thing you think about is if you're going to be able to take a nap.
Just one of those days.
Yeah. I woke up. I was like, man, I could go for a nap. And I've been out of bed for maybe 7 minutes.
Yeah, definitely have hit that stage in my life where, I look forward to the opportunity of like, oh, I can like close my eyes and nap for a little bit. That's awesome. Let's do it. So
I have put into I think I might have mentioned this. I have put into my daily schedule, and I just do it Monday through Friday because on the weekends, I just can't always control things.
All right.
Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 4 p.m. is my quiet time. I put my device down, and I have it in my Google Calendar, so like I can't get alerts, like I won't be bugged.
Mm-hmm.
I put my phone down, make sure my laptop's off, the TV's off. There's literally no noise, and I just lay down on the couch. And if I can't sleep, I just lay there with my eyes closed, like just relaxes me. And it's probably been one of the better things I've done in a long time for like and what's funny for my physical health too, because if I squeeze in a nap, it's like a 15, 20-minute power nap, which I'm still a firm believer that's a real thing.
Oh, I love power nap.
Just enough rest to kind of spark through the rest of my day because I generally, I don't shut down work at 5.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's been really good for me. And if for some reason I can't keep my eyes closed, I'll read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'll read something that's not work related. Like, I'm just trying to separate from the planet for about 30 minutes every day.
Fair.
And it's done wonders.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what all you got going on this week? Anything fun?
Just blowing and going like regular, man. and just appointments with clients, run around town. Praying to God we get some rain this afternoon. We got
That'd be
nothing
nice.
last night. After everything that was forecast for last night. We ended up getting nothing at my house.
Yeah,
Um,
I had a couple of sprinkles, but and some rumblies. We had some thunder, but that was about it.
well, yeah, no, we definitely got some lightning and thunder. So it's a little bit of madness, but now just kind of the same for me this week. Just getting after work. I've got my Monday market update that I'm doing later today. And then my Ribs real estate and ramblings will be coming out on Friday. Again, last Friday we dropped Memo Salinas, former yell leader, was the first Hispanic head yell leader at A&M, and he's just such a fantastic kid with a great head on his shoulders. So if you get a chance to check that out, go over to the YouTube channel. It's at Triple R, or you can just go to my Instagram, and I've got the link in my bio. So but yeah, or Facebook, I post on there too, on my personal page. So go check it out when you get a chance. Share it, like it, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff.
We are retweeting it as well on RedAss Podcast, so be sure to check that out on there. Also, RedAss Podcast, new update. We have an Instagram now, so we're going to get that rolling here. Going to be posting reels, just maybe a little clip here and there with links to come check out the page. If you guys have any content that you would like to see us cover, feel free to DM us on there. But once again, on there, it's just at RedAss Podcast. Easy to find.
Right.
Go look it up. We are happy to interact. Give us a follow. We'll be happy to give you a follow back right now.
You can just hit us up personally.
Yeah, hit us up personally. Be sure to hit Roy May 15 on Twitter, Roy May Jr. on Instagram, or you can hit Rob the Slapper on Twitter and Instagram as well. So good week coming up for our direction. Gonna head up to the Titus County Fair in Mount Pleasant on Friday. Yeah, always enjoy good fair and rodeo. Those are our type of crowd, so we like those folks. And then we're heading to Stephenville the next day to go play at Twisted J Live, which is always a party and good folks up there in Stephenville. So looking forward to throwing it down with the Cowboys out there, and so it should be a good time. But yep. Then we're going to Colorado next week. So, whoo!
That's a bit of a haul.
I have a feeling we may or may not be back. I don't. At some point that Sunday, we'll figure out the scheduling for this podcast when we get to it. But
you gotta stop through New Mexico.
I guarantee you, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull into Raton, fill up at that little gas station, and head towards Clayton and get back the hell into Texas. It's about normal.
That makes sense
for that New Mexico stretch. We don't really play around too much while we're there, but we may or may not in the near future. We'll see. But yeah, be sure to follow us on all those socials. If you need those again, rewind, go give it a listen. I'm not going to say it again. We thank y'all for listening in on the RedAss Podcast. It's been wonderful. We're happy. Pray for rain. We need it. Gig 'em, beat the hell out of Arkansas, eat the hell out of bacon. Let's have ourselves a week.
Bacon and eggs.
Gig 'em.